Okay, going in a topic of why I believe that you were molested as a child or as a young teen, let me first say this. I'm not the one that first said it. That's a fact. That's a truth. You might remember that after your father caused the split up, forced the split up of our family, in which let me go there first. Let me explain that really good. Okay, in a nutshell, I had previously, in the few weeks before that, gone to St. Louis to get an incredible job. I lost the job because this guy that was there also training for the job, for some reason out of nowhere, I have no idea why, he asked me what my faith was. And I told him that I was a Christian back then. Now, understand, I am no longer a Christian. I have denounced Jesus Christ. I have accepted Yeshua al-Mashiach as my personal Savior, my Redeemer, and Yahuwah as my Father. Not God, not Dios. I try very hard not to use the words Lord, because if you do the search on Lord, you find out that Lord actually refers to Satan. It's Baal. Do your studying, and you'll find out the deception that the Christian church's faith, which is a pagan religion, is all about. But anyway, I'm not here to preach on that, so let me go to another place. Okay. After your father forced a split, and whereby if you want it, not me, but in order for you to get the house, you had to leave me. I'll tell you, Marisol, when your dad gets before Yeshua, let me tell you something. It's going to be an absolute miracle if he enters into the heavens. Absolute miracle. But anyway, let me keep going. I had agreed to go into counseling, which is interesting. We tried counseling many, many times, and I shouldn't really say we, because that's a joke. I tried counseling during our marriage many times, because you would not go to counseling if I was to bring up at all, in any way, shape, or form, the sexual problems that you had in bed. And you told me many times if I even started to bring it up, that you would walk out of the counseling room. So I got a question for everybody that's getting this. From the Sabayans are getting this. Many others are getting this. How in the world can you go to counseling for marriage counseling when you can't talk about the problems that you're having? That's why I stopped going. It's a joke. Total joke. But anyway, after that did happen with your father, in which I remember that day. I'll describe it. Went in, we sat down. They were sitting on the couch, which was in front of the patio door. The balcony window. We were sitting in front. You're to my left. Your father's in front of me. Your mother's in front of you. And he says, well, what happened? And I described to him what happened, how this guy had asked me about my faith, and I said, well, I told him that, I was a Christian. And then the guy mentioned to me that he was a Jewish, and I said, well, come and think of it, really, I'm Jewish as well, because I said, I just found out recently that my mother had told me that our family tree line went to Spain, and that my great-great-great-grandparents and all that were actually Jewish. But during the Spanish Inquisition, when the Jewish people were being annihilated, since we didn't have the facial features of a Jewish person, they changed their last name to Cuellar, and basically just kept out of the limelight. And because of that, they were saved. They weren't murdered, and etc. So I said to the guy, I'm actually, therefore, since I'm a Christian, I'm actually a Messianic Jew, but I've never practiced the Jewish faith. I don't know much about it. And anyway, the next day when I came in, all of a sudden I'm getting taken to the office, Oh, no, no. Well, before that happened, and then the guy says, "Well, that's a cult." And I said, "No, it's not a cult. It's a faith. It's a, a Messianic Jew is a person who's of Jewish faith who accepts Jesus Christ at that time, Jesus Christ as a Savior." And he said it was a cult, and I said, "No, it's not a cult." But I felt him getting very aggressive, and so I just backed off and said, "Look, we don't need to talk about this. I'm just going to go back and sit down," and I did. But anyway, the next morning I got called into the office and I was accused of being an anti-Semitic, which is interesting. How can you be anti-Semitic when your Redeemer, Yeshua, is of the Jewish ethnic faith? But anyway, and right away your dad started with, "Well, you're a victim. You're always the victim. You're always the victim. You're always the victim. It's always victim." And I said, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "Well, what happened in the other jobs?" I said, "What jobs? What about when you worked at the car places?" Well, I said at the first car place that I worked at, they were closing that. And when they hired me, they told me that in a few months, it could be 2 or 3 months because it was being sold, that's all I would be for it. And that's what happened. When they sold it, the job terminated. We all left. Okay? Well, they diminished us, and then within another month and a half, everybody was gone. Okay? And they said, "Oh, okay, well, what happened at the other one?" Well, at the other one, I went to work over there at 31st and 44, the Chevrolet dealer. I said, very simple. I caught them going into my paycheck. They were stealing from my paycheck. And I don't work for people that steal from my paychecks. They said, "Oh, yeah, you always have an excuse. Blah, 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 blah. You have an excuse. You have an excuse." Blah, blah, blah. I said, "Well, hey, it's not an excuse. It's the truth." I sued them, took them to court, and I won. And actually, when I actually did the analysis of it, they actually stole about $1,100-1,200 from me, but I got it all back. I didn't realize how much they were stealing from me. Anyway, they said, "Okay, well, what happened at the other place where you were selling houses?" I said, very simple. I caught them committing consumer fraud. They were defrauding their customers, and they wanted me to do the same thing, to steal, to do the contracts in a way that was fraudulent. I said, I don't do that. I said it was so complex and it was so much for so much money that even the Attorney General of Oklahoma got involved in all that, criminal charges and everything potential and all that kind of stuff. And I said they stole from me $5,000 of my commissions, but I took them to court and I won. And that's where that money was used to buy the Nissan Quest that was then put into the trust and given to the trust and all that, and we go from there. And then I knew where he was going before he even said it. He said something like, "Well, I made a decision." As soon as he said that, I already knew what he was going to say, and that was that you were going to get the house as long as you left me. I knew what that bastard father of yours was going to do. And sure enough, but you know what surprised me the most? I thought that I had married and I don't like to use the word today like that, but let's just say a righteous, holy, at that time, Christian woman who would stand by her husband. But you know what? I knew that you were going to take the offer. I knew, Marisol. And you want to say why? Or how did I know? Very simple, and I'll tell you why. Because a true wife, a true woman would have left with me when I said to you, "Marisol, come with me." And you said, "No, I got to talk to my father." And I already knew that you were going, as I know today, betray. Now, I didn't know at that time it was called betray. I know today. That instant, you betrayed our family. But let me tell you something. That's something that you will live for the rest of your life till you take the last breath. Now, you remember Susanna and Pancho? Susanna? Well, I'm going to talk to you about that because every time I would come to Tulsa, those few times, sneak in, so to speak. Until the last time when the Sabillons participated with you in getting me arrested. That was interesting. But anyway, we'll talk about that in a moment as well. But anyway, I had a good conversation with Suzanne, and I don't think Pancho was there, but I went by to see him. Anyway, here we go.